Hey everyone, welcome back to the Wisdom-Bridgelife channel. Today we're going to break one of the biggest myths in the AI world. Efficiency is the key to AI success. Sounds right, but it's wrong. And over the next few minutes, I'll show you why, through real industry stories that might completely rewire how you think about building AI systems. Let's get into it. Efficiency is overrated. Here's why. Efficiency is seductive. We hear it all day. Faster models, lower compute, cheaper inference. And yes, efficiency matters.
Are we going to have an AI bubble?
That's the last question. All right, no. All right, let me just tell you what we see. Okay, so I think it's really important when you look at what's happening around the world and go back to first principles of what's happening in computer science and computing. There are three things that's happening. The first thing is that we all know that Moore's law has run its course, and the amount of demand for computing versus the amount of computation we can get out of general purpose computing is really challenging. And so the world's been moving to accelerated computing for some time. We've been pushing this now for over 20 years. Let me give you one statistic. I was just at supercomputing. 6 years ago, CPUs were 90% of the world's supercomputers, top 500 supercomputers. 6 years ago. This year, less than 15%. Went from 90% to 10%, and meanwhile, accelerated computing went from the other way, 10% to now 90%. Okay, so you're seeing that inflection point, the transition in high-performance computing from general-purpose computing to accelerated computing. Well, one of the most intensive computation things that the world does in cloud is data processing. Several $100 billion of computation is done on just raw data processing. It has nothing to do with AI. Just SQL processing, data frames, everybody's names, address, their sex, their age, where they live, how much money they make. All of that sits into a data frame, and that data frame drives the world today, whether it's in banking or whether it's in credit cards or, of course, e-commerce and everything from ad recommendation. And everything is driven off of that data frame. That data frame costs hundreds of billions of dollars to go compute. And so that's the number one thing, end of Moore's law. The second thing is generative AI. What the most important application of the last 15 years is called REXs, recommender systems. How do we know what information to recommend to us in a social feed? How do you know what ad to recommend to somebody, what book to recommend, what movie to recommend? The internet is so gigantic, without a recommender system, that little tiny phone of us will have no chance of ever seeing the right information. That REXs is the engine of the internet today. That's going generative AI. It used to be running on CPUs, now it runs on GPUs. Which then says the third thing, if you just look at those two applications, many of the internet companies can build an enormous number of GPU supercomputers just doing that. Of course, then it creates the third opportunity on top of it, which is agentic AI. This is Grok, and this is OpenAI, this is Anthropic, this is Gemini. Agentic AI sits on top of that. But don't forget to think about what is happening underneath what everybody sees as AI today. There's a whole movement of computing from general purpose computing to accelerated computing. And that, if you take that into consideration, you'll come to the conclusion that, in fact, what is left over to fuel that revolutionary agentic AI is not only substantially less than you thought, and all of it justified.
But here's the trap many companies fall into. They build an extremely efficient AI system that nobody trusts, nobody uses, and nobody needs. It's like building the world's most fuel-efficient car, but with a steering wheel that shakes, weird door handles, and no seatbelts. Tech without adoption is just a science project. Let's break down the real drivers of AI success: accuracy and reliability, the non-negotiables. An AI model that is fast but wrong is not efficient. It's a danger waiting to happen. Think about these real examples. Healthcare. IBM Watson for oncology. It was marketed as a revolutionary cancer diagnosis AI, but internal tests revealed it sometimes recommended unsafe and incorrect treatments. Hyper-efficient system, super quick output, but unreliable. Hospitals walked away, billions lost. Finance, algorithmic fraud detection. One major payment processor built a highly efficient fraud model that falsely flagged thousands of real customers. People couldn't pay for groceries, flights, or medicines. Efficiency destroyed trust. They rebuilt the system from scratch. Tesla autopilot. Tesla didn't chase efficiency first, they chased safety first. Millions of miles of human-verified driving data, hundreds of edge cases. Why? Because accuracy builds trust, and trust builds adoption. In high-stakes industries, accuracy beats speed every single time. User experience, the hidden giant nobody talks about.
Now it feels like Gemini is this through line across literally every single one of our products.
To see it all come together, it is really special. I was just reflecting in the last couple of weeks. I think we've pretty much been shipping something every day, and so it's a great feeling.
The Nano Banana Pro moment, I'm sure you've spent a bunch of time playing around with the model. People are going crazy with it, which is awesome.
To me, it showed how much latent creativity people have. People are going to express themselves, and we are giving them the tools to do it the way they're thinking it in their head.
And it empowers me. Like, I feel like I've actually become more creative in like the way I think about the world because of these tools.
I think in about 5 years, we'll be having breathless excitement about quantum, hopefully, like we're having with AI today. You know, when you're working on stuff inside, you kind of visualize the moment when you can actually put it all out. And when you work on products, there's nothing more exciting than that. And that's what this week is. But I think it's based on a foundation over many, many years and of all the deep investments we built. And it was always clear to me. You could see the pace at which we were making progress. But to see it all come together, it is really special. I was just 16. I wanted the whole company to be AI first. A lot of what prompted that moment was 2012 was Google Brain, the famous cat paper, which had breakthrough in image classification. 2014, we brought Google DeepMind in. January 2016 was the AlphaGo moment. And now many people didn't notice, in May 2016, we announced our first TPU.
Yeah.
So it was clear to me in 2016, seeing all that, we are about to go through another platform shift. And that was the bet on a full stack bet on setting up Google to be an AI first company. You know, and since then, we have been making a lot of progress. There's so many breakthroughs coming from Google, including Transformer. We were putting it in our products in BERT and MUM and making search better, launch Google Photos and so on. But obviously with the generative AI moment, I realized the window was even bigger, like, you know, that people were ready to use the technology at scale.
Yeah.
Consumers, developers, and so on. So how do you respond to a moment like that? And, you know, for us, it was about, we kicked off Gemini as a project, and across Google Brain and Google DeepMind. And as part of that, then deciding to bring the teams together as Google DeepMind, we really ramped up our investments in our infrastructure, data centers, TPUs, GPUs, and so on. It is then, getting the company to move at a faster cadence. Right, you now have the technology, and once the GDM team started shipping Gemini, and you can talk about the series of Gemini milestones we have worked through, and it's been great to have you for a lot of the journey, driving it too. And now, how do you make sure you manifest it in all our products? There are many products which touch billions of users, right? How do you get search to iterate with the power of what these models can do? And so that's been the journey. But you can step back and understand that framework, and it's so exciting because for the first time, you have when you have a full stack approach, each layer, when it innovates, it flows through all the way on the top.
This is
When we had to respond to this Gen AI moment, like I remember we were short on capacity. So when we had to invest to ramp up all these things to get it to the scale. So so you had a fixed cost around it.
Yeah.
So if you were on the outside, it looked like we were quiet or we were behind, but we were putting all the building blocks in place and then executing on top of it. We are on the other side now, right? And which is what you can see the pace at which teams are moving forward.
Yeah.
It's a very clear manifestation of what is the AI first strategy.
Yeah.
Because now you have something tangible like Gemini, which people can understand. And Gemini, you're right, improves everything from search to YouTube to cloud to Waymo. What I loved about the Gemini 3 launch, you talked about sim shipping. We shipped it across many of our products. But it was fascinating for me to see, on X, it could be Copilot or Replit or Figma, people all coming together to understand it. One of the things PowerPoint many years ago unleashed is people kept making more and more slides. Like, always used to go so much information and it kept expanding. Like maybe with Nano Banana Pro, we are back to a phase by which we can kind of compress it and give it to the world in a more digestible way. That's neat. The other thing it shows me is how much latent creativity is there in the world.
Yeah.
So one of the other beautiful things we're witnessing is I think like people are going to express themselves and we are giving them the tools to do it the way they're thinking it in their head. Right. And so I think otherwise we've been constrained by the tools in front of people. You may not have realized it, but we are creating more and more expressive tools and they're more and more accessible to, more and more people. And so
The hidden giant nobody talks about. Here's a hard truth. The world does not care if your model has state-of-the-art efficiency. It cares if people enjoy using it. It didn't win because it was the most efficient LLM. It won because it was intuitive, fun, conversational, accessible to everyone. Engineers weren't the first users. Teenagers, creators, founders, students were. The opposite case, Google Glass. Incredibly advanced tech, voice-activated, efficient, ahead of its time, but the UX, awkward, socially uncomfortable, confusing, and it died. A 70% efficient AI with 70% adoption beats a 95% efficient AI with 10% adoption. UX is not a feature, it's the battlefield. Ethics and trust, the career maker or breaker factor. Here's the part people ignore until it's too late. Facial recognition. Several AI systems from big tech companies severely underperformed on darker skin tones. Not because of compute, not because of efficiency, but because of biased data. The fallout? Government bans, lawsuits, damaged reputation, billions wiped off potential market value, hiring model using AI. Few great companies built an efficient system to shortlist candidates faster, but it unintentionally learned to penalize women applicants. A PR disaster. They shut it down. Ethics isn't extra polish. It's the backbone of survival. Business alignment, solving real problems, not cool problems. Some AI teams fall in love with tech first and the customer last. Google Wave, remember it? Tech brilliance. Zero business alignment. People couldn't understand what problem it solved. It disappeared in a year. Canva AI tools. Contrast that with Canva's AI writing and design tools. Not the most efficient models, but perfectly aligned with what users needed. Speed, simplicity, creativity and adoption exploded. The best AI systems solve painful, urgent, expensive problems. Efficiency comes after usefulness. Interpretability, the regulatory wall.
A black box. AI model might be fast,
but try pushing it into banking, insurance, healthcare, government, law enforcement. Regulators will block you instantly. EU's AI Act, 2024 onwards. Companies now must explain why an AI made a decision, not just what decision it made.
If your system can't explain itself,
It's not deployable, no matter how efficient it is.
credit scoring companies.
Some early ML credit models got rejected by regulators because their reason codes were unclear. They switched to slightly less efficient but far more interpretable models and got approved. Real winners found the balance. Let's look at the companies that got it right. Google PageRank. Not just efficient, it was accurate, transparent, scalable, and solved a massive problem.
Finding the right web page.
Efficiency plus relevance equals domination. Efficiency? Good. UX? Incredible. Ethics? Actively improved. Business alignment? Astronomical. Interpretability? Growing. Result? Fastest software product adoption in human history.
Check Tesla. Autopilot.
Slower to roll out, more cautious, heavily tested. But the trust built over time, priceless. Amazon Alexa, efficient voice tech. But real growth happened when it became reliable, integrated, easy, delightfully simple. Final takeaway. Here's the truth no one tells you. Efficiency is the entry ticket. But accuracy, adoption, trust, ethics, and business value win the game.
If you master only efficiency, you build a good demo.
If you master all five, you build $1 billion company.
Your turn.
Have you seen an AI project fail, even though it was technically brilliant?
Drop your story in the comments. I read everyone.
If this gave you a new perspective, hit like, subscribe.
And I'll catch up with you all in the next deep dive.
Thanks for watching.